Thank you. So traditionally, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who was the founder and what we call acharya or exemplar of this society, he would always sing this song before every class. And what it does is it kind of evokes the mood of Vrindavan, which is Krishna's home. And it's a little song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is the father of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who we just celebrated the birthday or appearance day of. So it starts out Jaya Radha Madhava. Madhava is another name for Krishna, so all glories to Radha and Krishna. Kunja Bihari. Kunja Bihari means Krishna who enjoys in the garden spots of Vrindavan, all kinds of pastimes. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha, Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha means that he's much beloved by the gopis, his milkmaid friends. Girivardhari, this whole temple, this whole yatra, which includes the land and the ashram and the temple, is named after Giridhari. Giridhari means the lifter of the hill, the famous hill, the Govardhan hill. And you'll see in each corner a wonderful sculpture of Krishna doing just that, lifting this hill and protecting his cowherd friends from a huge inundation for a whole week. So he's Girivardhari. Gopijana Yashoda Nandana, he's the beloved child of Yashoda Mata. She is the exemplar of the most intense and broad and deep maternal love there ever was. Braja Jana Ranjana, he delights all the residents of Vrindavan with his pastimes, his beauty, his friendship, his love, everything. And finally, Yamuna Tira Vanachari. He enjoys pastimes in the gardens and groves on the bank of the Yamuna River, this idyllic river which runs through Vrindavan. So we'll sing that song just for a few minutes, and then we'll proceed. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Anjaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Anjaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Thank you very much. You did very well. So tonight, if you give me 1 second here, I didn't have time to prepare everything as I usually do. So on this 24th day of February, 2019 in SanDiego at the Krishna Fest on Sunday, we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're just going to read one verse and a little purport here from the 15th chapter, which is called the Yoga of the Supreme Person. And it has to do with the process of transmigration of the soul. So this is text 8 of chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita as it is. Sharidam yadavapnoti yachapyut kramatishvara grihit vaitani sangyati vayu gandhani vashayat. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Here the living entity is described as the Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. It is a false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. One gets a different body according to karma or activity, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body, the mind and intelligence, which carries the conception of the next body, develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karshati, or the hard struggle for existence. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandjana shalakaya chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So it was said that I'm a poet, which I'm not, but I do write little jingles here and there. So I'd like to share with you one of my latest, which many of you haven't heard before, which has to do with this subject matter of the soul different from the body, and what do we do with that knowledge. So it's like this. You're not that body, spirit, soul, so try to understand life's goal. To love the Lord who loves you too, and thus to your true self be true. So we're going to go over each one of those lines is right out of the Shastra, scripture. And so we'll explore that and see if it makes it interesting. So the first is something that actually I remember hearing when I joined the ashram back in 1973. Somehow at that time, this was in Brooklyn, New York, and you know, you come with so many misconceptions, you don't know what's going on actually. But that was kind of a theme. You're not that body, you're a spirit soul, you know, which really is the first step in self-realization. And that's why Krishna emphasizes it so much in chapter 2. Krishna begins his instructions to Arjuna, who really represents all of us, in chapter 2. After Arjuna kind of gives up his own effort to figure things out on his own and solve his problems, which he couldn't do, he was in a great dilemma because his duty, his dharma, was to fight this battle which had been building up for years. He and his brothers had been cheated out of the rightful kingdom, and Duryodhana and his brothers were trying to usurp the throne. And there was really kind of good versus evil, because the Pandavas, his brothers, were headed by Yudhishthira, who was dharma personified, virtue personified. And Krishna wanted him to rule for the benefit of the whole world. So it was Krishna's desire that the battle be fought and that Arjuna should fight it. He was the greatest warrior. But what happened when he went in between, Krishna took the role, just see now, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, but he takes the role of a servant of his devotee. He's a chariot driver. He's not the chariot master, he's the chariot driver, and Arjuna is the warrior in the chariot. So Arjuna asked Krishna, please take the chariot between the two armies so I can see who's going to fight on the other side. And there on the other side, he saw his worshipable guru, his military teacher, Dronacharya, and Bhishma Dev, his worshipable grandfather of all of the fighters. And not only that, but many in-laws, both blood relatives and friends. And in other words, It was a painful, painful internecine battle. In other words, you knew who was on the other side. And Arjuna just said, basically, who needs this kingdom? I'd rather not have, if I win the battle, then all these friends of mine and relatives and my worshipful guru will be dead, and I'll enjoy this kingdom which will be soaked with their blood. Forget it. I don't want it. Who cares? Let me go to the forest and just beg. This was his gut reaction to the whole thing. And because he was steeped in the Vedic culture, he also supported his argument with various citings of the Vedic literature. And basically it was that I'll disrupt the whole dynasty. I'll kill all the men, the women will become unprotected, there'll be Varna Sankara, children, unwanted children. I will be the cause of the destruction of society. And I'll get all these sinful reactions. Who needs that? Let me go off to the forest. This was it. But he didn't just get off the chariot and walk away, because he knew that he had Krishna was on it and he wanted him to fight. So Krishna says, how did this cowardliness come upon you? Get up and fight. This was Kshatriya talk. The chariot driver is supposed to do that. If the warrior gets a little cold feet, the chariot said, just think of what will happen to your good name. Come on, you have to fight. This is what. So there was nothing really transcendental about that. Krishna was just speaking as in his role as a chariot driver. But when Arjuna was paralyzed, he had no real solution to his dilemma. And he dropped his bow, he's crying, and his hair standing on end, is paralyzed. Then he surrendered to Krishna, not as a friend, because friends can go back and forth and talk, for hours, and you probably had the experience, and really not get anything done. So he said, now I'm surrendering to you as my guru, as my spiritual master. Now please instruct me as a shishya. Shishya is meant to be controlled by the words of the guru. That's what shishya means. So the whole relationship changed, and Krishna immediately changed his role there. And he starts speaking the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita in text 11 of chapter 2. And for 20 verses, he simply expounds upon basically the difference of the body and the soul. And to understand that changes all the calculations. Because Arjuna has to know, he's not really killing anybody. Nobody dies. This is another little poem I wrote. Everybody dies, nobody dies. Wake up, and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're pure spirit soul. Chant a holy name and attain life's goal. We'll do that one on another day. So this first line here is, you're not that body, spirit, soul. In other words, if I'm a spirit soul, not the body, that means that my calculation for what's good and what's bad and what I should do has to be on an eternal platform, not just a few years that I'm in this body. And don't you see how that changes everything? How did I get in this position? And how can I get the best position in the rest of this life and my next life and all the lives after that? Not simply, how can I calculate so I can get the best, job in this case and somehow eke out a living and so forth. Because all of that is very evanescent, which means temporary. In previous life, we could have been a man, or we could have been in a wholly different situation, and in our next life we'll be in a wholly different situation. So why should we spend all our time worrying about our material position here? So that's the first idea. You're not that body, spirit soul. You're what Prabhupada would call the spirit soul, the Atma. And what are the qualities of the Atma? Well, in contrast to the body, Prabhupada would always quote this one verse, which is kind of a summary verse in that 20-verse lesson. Na jayate mriyate vakadachan nayam bhutva bhavitava nabuya ajo nitya shastrato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane shirire. It's all there in that one verse. Na jayate mriyate. For the soul, there is never birth and death. Obviously, for the body, there is, right? Nayam bhutva. It hasn't come into being. Souls aren't coming into being now. And they're not going to come into being in the future. They all exist as eternally as God, as Krishna. We are as eternal as God. Isn't that encouraging? Death is just a big illusion. But it can be a very painful illusion if we identify ourselves wholly and solely with this body. So that's the first lesson. You're not that body, spirit, soul. So try to understand life's goal. What do we do with that knowledge? So now we come into the realm of this famous first aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra are little aphorisms. I'll give you an example. Atato Brahma Jigyasa Very short, right? Not even as long as the Bhagavad Gita verse. So they need commentary. They have to be filled out. So this is the first one. Tato Brahma Jigyasa. Every syllable, every word is important. What it means is now, therefore, you should inquire into Brahman. In other words, everyone's asking questions. Even the animals are asking questions. A bird wakes up in the morning, where's the worm? You know, I got to go out, right? Where's food? And the other big question, where is safety, right? You have to have two things, what is called yoga and kshema. Krishna goes, yoga and kshema. Yoga, in this instance, in this context, yoga can mean different things, as many English words do. The necessities of life. You have to have a roof over your head. In this weather, you got to have something wrapped around, right? These poor homeless people, you know, God, how do you stay warm? You know, it's so painful to watch. And it's an unfortunate karma for them. But this is a necessity. Protection for the body, food, health, you know, clean water, air, right, to live on, all of these necessities. This is called yoga. Kshema is your security and your safety. That's also necessary. If you're eating, you're taking a nice meal, honoring prasadam, but suddenly there's an earthquake, you forget about that. You run outside. It happened once here, 94. I was in this building. I was chanting upstairs. It used to be have a gift shop upstairs. And it's early morning. I'm chanting. Suddenly, it's like you're on a surfboard, but it's the land. I ran outside. It continued right on the sidewalk. We had a different set of chandeliers, but they were all shaking in here. Now, I have to admit, if I was really Krishna conscious, I would have run inside and make sure the deities are safe. But I didn't. But anyways, and it stopped. This was, I don't know if how many of you were around. It was in Joshua Tree. There was an earthquake way up there where there's no people, thank God, and I don't think there were any injuries. But it was like a 7-point earthquake, you know. At any moment, right? In the next moment, it's going to happen. So that's the danger. So we require necessities, we require safety, yoga and kshema. So, but that's for the body. The soul is not really threatened by those things because we're identifying with this. So what is the benefit of the soul? If we don't take birth, we don't die, we're unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. It's basically saying the same thing again and again, but it's... And then the last one, Nahanyate hanyamane sharire, that's the last line. The soul is not slain when the body is slain. Now he's using this language because he's on a battlefield. But basically, the soul does not die when the body dies. All of the body, each one of our bodies will eventually succumb to disease, injury, old age, whatever. Right? That's a fact. We know that. We do all kinds of things to try to forget that reality, but we know it's a fact. So, but isn't it encouraging that we won't die at that time? But then the next question is, well, what determines what kind of body I'm going to get next? And that's explained in this verse I read. In other words, any intelligent person, right, wants to improve his future. Why are there all these educational institutions? Why is there job training? You know, why do we work out, and try to keep the body healthy? Because we want to prosper in this world. We want to be able to enjoy and live healthily. But ultimately, all of those attempts to keep the body healthy and everything fail. But what can we do for the soul to ensure or give us the best chance for a better future? We're talking about eternity now, not just 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. This is the eternal benefit of the soul. You can see how important that is. What can be more important than that? So here he's giving the basic principle using a nice analogy. The living entity material world carries its different conceptions of life. In other words, the consciousness that you create. We're creating our consciousness. All of you in this room are having a little bit of consciousness, at least, of Krishna. We're reading from his book. There's this deity. We're chanting his name. So this is a rare group. Out of all the people in this city, how many are really thinking of Krishna at this moment? A relatively small number. But that's very auspicious. Because thinking of something other than Krishna means you're thinking of this relative world. Something you want, something you fear, just sleeping it off and whatever, watching some movie or TV or something, getting absorbed in that. But how will that impact your future? That's creating a certain consciousness. People don't, you don't think about this, but just think about it in a minute. So many movies, and they create all of these illusions. The whole idea is to create an illusion of reality, so you enter into it. You're also fearing for the hero, and you're loving this way, and you're doing. In other words, you're getting entrained by all of that. All right, but then it ends, and all of that has an impact on your brain, on your mind, right? And that's going to go into the mix of your next life. Because that's the means of how you transmigrate. The consciousness that you have when this body finally gives up and you leave it, the mind doesn't die along with the gross body. This body of flesh and blood obviously is going to go. But the subtle body, your mind, your thoughts, your intelligence, your ego, this is called the subtle body. This is the vehicle for carrying you. It's the template of your next body. If we made our consciousness very nasty and vicious, that's going to impact on our next life. And then there's the whole idea of karma, how we've acted, have we been vicious, have we hurt others? That's all goes into the account. Who's watching? Krishna, the super soul. He's mentioned, he's in every heart and every atom. So nothing we do goes unobserved. This is the criminal's fallacy. Thinking you can do it in hiding and get away with it. You don't get away with anything. You may be able to get away in the civil courts or the human court, but not in the court of the Supreme Lord. So, grihit vaitani sangmandi. So this it's like a fragrance. If the soul is compared to the wind passing across a garden, it'll pick up nice fragrance of flowers and be very nice. But if it goes to the garbage heap, then it picks up a nasty flavor. Fragrance. So similarly, as we associate with this world, we're creating a certain consciousness, a certain fragrance of consciousness, which will determine our next birth. So, you're not your body, spirit, soul, so try to understand life's goal. What is that life's goal? The Vedanta Sutra says, and it's enjoining all human beings, all of us, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Jigyasa means inquire. We're always inquiring into something. The financial, those who are like into money, totally, that's from morning till night. They're into that head, right? They may be worth $1 billion, or maybe they have $1,000 they're trying to turn into $1 million and $1 billion. So you got to think about what's the price of this, what's the price of this, how can I buy this and sell this? So that's where their consciousness is at, right? They're inquiring, what is the price of this stock, right? The bird is inquiring, where's the worm? Right? Everybody is asking questions, but this question is the most important one that the Vedanta Sutra says. Brahma Jigyasa. You should inquire into Brahman. What is Brahman? Mention the sutra. The next sutra. This is number 2. Janmadyasya yataha. Very short. Easy to remember. Janmadyasya yataha. So you take it apart. Janmadi. Janma means birth, just like every year we celebrate Janmashtami. It's the 8th day of, I forget, the waning or waxing moon in the month, usually around August, September. Krishna's birth. Janma means birth. So Janma means creation in this case. Adi means maintenance and destruction. Everything that comes into being, whether it's our body or this building or the whole universe, has a point of creation. And it stays for some time, and ultimately it's destroyed. And so, janmadhyasya yataha, from where, from whence, from whom comes everything, who maintains everything, and who destroys everything. That's what we should inquire into. That's what Brahman is defined here, the great source of everything. Brahman is everywhere. We are also Brahman. That's the second thing you learn in the ashram. Aham Brahmasmi. This is your first Sanskrit phrase, you become Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman, spirit. I am spirit, not matter. You see? Aham Brahmasmi. But I'm not Para-Brahman. Prabhupada makes that very clear. Para-Brahman is the supreme spirit. That's Krishna. We are part and parcel. This is also in the previous verse in the 15th chapter. Mama evangso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna is speaking. He says, Mama eva anksha. All the living entities, not just human beings, we should know that essentially we're no different than any of the other living beings, organisms that we see around. Whether they're animals, insects, plants, they all have a soul in there. And they all had a point of coming to being and growing and flourishing and eventually going out. And none of them die. And none of them are born. But their consciousness is much more rudimentary. The human form of life is this one very, very rare and important essential juncture by which we can break out of this prison house of the material energy and regain our original nature. And that's the rest of the verse. So he says, you're not that body, spirit, soul, so try to understand life's goal. So we can inquire. We're very fortunate. We have these books that Srila Prabhupada labored so hard to produce. And each of them tells us, explains to us, what is that life's goal and how to achieve it. This should be the real question. Not just what is that goal, but how can I achieve it? You see? The life's goal is to love the Lord who loves you too. That's the third line. The real, prema pumarto mahan. This word artha means a goal in Sanskrit. Now, it's so common that artha means money or something of value, that artha has also come to mean that. But really, there's this question of swa-artha. This word swa means the goal of the soul. Not just the goal, the temporary goals, external goals, but really the ultimate goal of the soul. Now, many people don't even know if there is such a thing or care if there is such a thing. But that's what separates the very few who are trying to achieve perfection in this life from the vast masses. Krishna mentions that in the 7th chapter. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yadati siddhaye. He says, out of thousands of human beings, Manushyanam doesn't mean man, it means human beings, and there are thousands of them, one may try for perfection. Kaschit yatati, yatati means to strive for siddha, perfection. Yatadam api siddhanam, and those who have achieved some kind of perfection, out of all of them, just very one or a few just know me in truth. It's very rare to achieve this ultimate goal of life. But why shouldn't we be among those few who achieve it? Yes, it's difficult, but it's been made very easy in this age because we're so unqualified. We don't live very long. We're generally not so interested in spiritual matters. And if we are, we go to some bogus, yogi or something on the internet and we get misguided. And we're always disturbed. ADHD, everybody's got some of that, right? How are we going to sit for yoga? Is anyone interested in going off to the Himalayas? Just leave everything you're involved in right now and go off to a secluded place and live alone, practice pranayama for weeks, months, years at a time, wrestle with that mind and fix it on the Lord in the heart. Who wants to sign up? No prasadam. You got to eat berries and fruits, whatever you can find out there, and there's all these animals, But that's why it says free of fear, probably. Krishna outlines the process in the 6th chapter. And Arjuna says, are you kidding? Because you have to wrestle with the mind. Have you ever tried to really just, concentrate on something and your mind is so disturbed it's impossible? But to fix the mind constantly, on the soul and to give up all of the things that you're into is practically impossible. So Arjuna says, Chanchalam himana Krishna pramati balavat dridham. My mind is very disturbed, chanchalam, moving from one thing to another. Have you noticed? It likes to go here and there, like a bee sometimes, or like a wild horse or sometimes. But here he compares it to the wind. I lived in Miami for 6 years. Every time July would come around, everyone starts looking at the weather map. Is one of those hurricanes blowing up in the Caribbean? Do we have to get out of town? Or batten down in the windows, Powerful, powerful winds, and they're becoming more powerful, as I think we all know. So he compares it to a hurricane. He says, Tasyaham nigraham manye vayu iva suduskaram. I think that to control the mind is like trying to control the wind. And Krishna says, yes, you're right, but through careful practice you can do it, but if you really try. So Arjuna says, okay, Krishna's telling him, but what if I fail? He's not very optimistic. What if I fail? I'll give up all of this that I've known, my kingdom, my involvement here, and I'll be sitting in meditation, but I'll fail. Then I won't achieve on that level, I won't achieve on this level, I'll be like a riven cloud, I gave it all up for nothing. So Krishna says, no, don't worry. Whatever progress you make in this life will accrue in your next life. And you'll be born in a rich family, or even better, a yogi family, or something like that. But then finally Krishna says, don't worry, you don't have to follow this yoga. Yogi nama bisarveshan muggatenandaratma shraddhavam bhajate yomam samayuktatabomata. You're already the great yogi because you're always thinking about me. Arjuna was a great friend of Krishna's. Life after life, he would appear. So one who always worships me with great faith in his heart, he's the best of yogis. And then Krishna in the 7th chapter starts speaking about how you can train the mind to see me everywhere and to become naturally attracted to me. If you're able to think of and absorb your mind in the most attractive form of the absolute truth, where is there any question of meditation? In other words, he'll automatically draw your mind. And that's the power of this bhakti yoga, especially as taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers. So the second line is to try to understand life's goal. And simply, life's goal is this: to understand that we're spirit, not matter, to understand the activities that we should perform as spirit. Because spirit is like, what does it mean? It's an impersonal world. We're not just impersonal spirit. We are spiritual persons who have lost that identity and now we're covered by this material tabernacle. Let's say tabernacles. We've been through many different bodies. So the goal is to realize our actual nature, which is no secret. Krishna says, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, the same person, what is the Swarup? Swarup means my real form, my real identity. So he answers, Jivera, of the Jiva, the spirit soul, Jivera Swarupoi, Krishnera Nityadas. All of us are eternally servants of Krishna. Now, we're saying, well, I don't want to be a servant of anybody. I'm going to be the master. No, you're not. We're automatically servants. If we're not serving Krishna, we're serving Maya. Are we all breathing in this room? Of course. We don't think. But we have to breathe in order to serve the body. We have to feed it. We have to keep it warm. Right? So we're servants of the senses, servants of the body. Aren't we servants of our boss? Everyone has somebody above them. Even as devotees, there's always somebody you have to serve. In order to get your rent money, whatever else. You're serving. We're constantly serving. So the question is, where can we place that service to our best benefit? And that's comes in the third line. Because the people we're serving and the things we're serving, they don't love us. They're out to exploit us. No matter who you're working for. If you can't, make more value than they're paying you, you're going to be fired. So there's no love lost there, Although they try to give you the illusion, right? You go to, there's the billboard and the advertisement. Oh, please come to the restaurant. We really want to make you happy, No, they don't. They want to convince you that they're making you happy while they take your money, right? That's not service. That's exploitation. But Krishna, as we say in the third line, to love the Lord who loves you too. And this is the real essence of the whole thing. What is it that's so attractive and so worshipful and so admirable about this relationship between a mother and a child, which Srila Prabhupada explained is the closest thing we have to this kind of selfless love that's meant for Krishna? Is that this bond, the mother loves the child unconditionally. In other words, it's not I love you because you love me. No, the mother is, if the child is happy and warm and healthy, she's happy. That's the key. If the child is progressing nicely in school, then she's happy. Right? The selfless. And even the mother would give up the life for the child. You see. But it's a temporary relationship. The child grows up, moves away like that. When the mother is 75 and the child is 50, it's a different relationship. So, but the point is that we are part and parcel of Krishna, as mentioned in the previous verse. So the inconceivable aspect is, but which is true, and you experience in Krishna consciousness, if you forget yourself and you put your mind on Krishna, you're absorbed in the kirtan, you're hearing the holy name, you're seeing the wonderful deity. There's a pleasure that's coming there. The tears may not be flowing like it is, but it's something that's different than sense gratification. And that's why, 50 years later, you can keep chanting the same mantra and getting pleasure out of it. It's not material. And if you really purify more and more, then it becomes more and more attractive and more beautiful. There's no satiety, as there is with every material pleasure. So to love the Lord who loves you too. Krishna loves us, and therefore he comes, he speaks the Bhagavad Gita. He creates this whole material world because we wanted it. We wanted a place where we could play at being God, you know, but it's a reformatory. We're supposed to learn that you can't. And I mean, all of us have kind of learned that by now, right? I mean, I remember when I was, 11, 12, I wanted to be perfect. And I combed my hair, and a hair came out, and I got panicky. Oh my God, am I getting bald? You know? I looked in the mirror and said, man, no, not bad. My hair's coming out? You know? I mean, it's foolish. But is that so much different than, oh my God, there's a wrinkle. Let me go get some Botox. You know? Is it really that much different? You can't preserve it. It's just a bag. That's another one of my little poems. Don't love the body, just a bag of flesh and blood and bone. You know, I won't go into the rest of the poem. But who can argue with that? Who can argue? It really is the truth. But we spend so much time and energy trying to forget that truth. But we can love the soul and love the Supreme Soul eternally. Krishna really is perfect, perfectly beautiful, all attractive. And the wonderful thing is, if we try to just practice this process, beginning with the chanting of the holy name, we can actually feel His presence in our lives more and more. This is the whole idea. So, to try to love the Lord who loves you too, and thus to your true self be true. So this is obviously, those who know a little Shakespeare. No, I'm sorry, was it Socrates? To thine own self be true? I think it was Shakespeare. Anyway, it's a famous saying, to thine own self be true. And most people think, yeah, I really have to do what I feel like doing, what really makes me happy. In other words, it was kind of the anthem of the hippie days. If it feels good, do it. No, that's not what it means. That's not what my little poem means. You have to know what the real self is. This is the first thing. And there is a distinction. In other words, we've created what we feel like doing, what we have tendency to do, what we're addicted to, and we think will make us happy. That's not the benefit of the soul. The soul is suffering from that. We're in the body, we're identifying with the body and all of its desires and prejudices and passions and all these things. But all of that is not us. That's a function of our involvement with what we call the modes of nature. So the process of devotional service purifies. Just like you have some gold, but it's covered in dirt and everything. So you have to wash it off and maybe smelt it, you know, so that the actual gold comes out. So we are diamond in the rough, so to speak. All of us are occupying material bodies in this particular configuration, which is constantly changing. I think we know that. And we've had many bodies before, and we'll have more in the future. But we should begin the process sincerely of extricating ourselves and discovering who we really are. In the teachings of the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the books of Srila Prabhupada, it's described how we can reawaken ourselves, revive our awareness of who we actually are. And the basic principle is we're Krishna Das, meaning that we're most happy when we're serving Krishna in love. Just like this hand of mine, right? You don't think about it twice as long as it's doing what it's supposed to do. If I wanted to pick up this little glass of water and just take some water, so the hand does it, right? And the hand also benefits. I drink enough water and food, and it nourishes the hand, right? If the hand, that Prabhupada tells the story, goes on strike, the senses, with the hand and the feet, and you know, I was saying, why are we doing all the work and the belly is enjoying all the food? We want to enjoy directly. So they started squishing the banana to try to enjoy separately, but they couldn't enjoy. And instead they got weak because their body wasn't being nourished, you see. So then they realized, oh, okay, we have to cooperate with the stomach and then we'll also be happy and nourished. So yata taro mula nishechadena, there's a verse in Bhagavatam. Just as when you want to, the fruits and flowers and the twigs and the branches and leaves on a tree to flourish, you water the root. You don't go up there and water each leaf and flower, right? You water the root. Similarly, if you want to be healthy, you put the food in the stomach, and then all the limbs are nourished and you become healthy. Similarly, if you serve Krishna, then all the gods are happy with you. You don't have to worship anyone else besides Krishna, because they're all his servants. They're all part of a big universal government. And you also become happy because you're part of Krishna. This is the inconceivable magic, if you will, of Krishna consciousness. Just by focusing the mind, chanting Hare Krishna, which is the best service, especially in this age, you find yourself becoming peaceful and detached from things and awakening all kinds of things, and most importantly, becoming interested in Krishna and the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So that's the last line. To your own self be true, and thus to your true self be true. Because if we're not, that means that we're serving our non-self. We're nourishing this process of transmigration, our false conception of who we really are. So the whole process and the whole movement of Krishna consciousness is geared toward giving everyone an opportunity, whether it's going out and chanting Hare Krishna, giving someone a book, studying, giving our classes, serving the prasadam, keeping the deities looking beautiful and attractive. It's all geared toward that one goal. To ourselves, as devotees working within the movement, progress in devotional service, and give as many people a chance to do it as possible. Because ultimately, this is the true platform of universal peace as well as individual peace. And that is seeing the oneness in all of us. There's no discrimination here. We have like so many races and ages and economic, obviously. And the movement as a whole, I'll tell you, if you go to Mayapur, it's the most amazing thing. You know, the 10, 20,000 devotees gather these days, you know, and you have your, you know, Chinese contingent, the Russians really come in strength because they're pretty close, you know. They come down. There's fewer Americans these days, but you'll find your Americans too. But every country, every race, everyone, they're all present there and joyfully greeting each other, especially in kirtan. You know, it just breaks all the barriers. They're all false barriers that have been constructed out of ignorance. So we shouldn't serve ignorance, we shouldn't stay ignorant. Read the books of Srila Prabhupada, take up the chanting, it's simple. You can do it at home, you don't even need any instruments. If you want, you can, you know, clap, sit around in a nice, in front of a beautiful picture of Krishna. Or, you know, these days, turn on the internet, get on the big screen. You can attend Mangal Arti in Vrindavan every morning if you really want to. You probably have to do it the evening, but it's, you know, everything is available. And do the things necessary for Krishna consciousness. The guidance is there, the books are there. We're here to help you. We have I should put in a plug, for our evening classes, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They've been going on for 31 years, or however long I've been here. And we're going through the Bhagavad Gita. We also read usually from Krishna book or Nectar of Devotion. And then we have a nice little kirtan. The final kirtan is very intimate. The Lord's wearing his night clothes. And then we have prasadam, and it's all free. So take advantage. At least get on the internet and hit the right keys so you can try it. Okay, so it's 6:44 now. Are there any discussion of this? I'll repeat my little poem again. You're not that body, spirit, soul. So try to understand life's goal. To love the Lord who loves you too, and thus to your true self be true. Any thoughts? Oh, we have a thought. Can we have move the mic over there? Yeah, because there's also an internet present they want to hear. I'll turn it on first. You have to turn that switch up. Push the switch up. Yeah, it's not easy. Okay. There you go.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hold it straight.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was amazing. I've been thinking a lot about our associations, right? Because this is something that can hold us, living our truth, right? But the world out there that doesn't resonate with the same idea of worshiping Krishna or the unconditional love, it's so different, you know. So I've been struggling with my friendships because I'm devoting my time, my career, my life to live out of love, you know. But I realize that other people, they are not there, you know. Uh-huh. And so I miss them because they're following another path, you know. And this happens whenever you start like vibrating higher, like you go to another direction.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah.
but I miss them so much, and I don't know how to still keep up with people that are not on the same consciousness, you know.
Okay. So the question is, what about association? What do we do to, you know, that's a dilemma.
Yes.
Well, you know, one of the things you learn in Krishna consciousness, this idea of conditioning, which Srila Prabhupada uses again and again. Conditioning means really habits that we've formed, not just one lifetime, but over lifetimes. And it's not easy. There's no way to cure the disease, if you will, that we have. That's one way of looking at it, without undergoing the treatment. And sometimes, as with the material disease, that treatment can be a little painful. And you mentioned the most essential thing, which is association. Mm-hmm. Really, the whole process can be defined in terms of association. Srila Prabhupada started this movement, and he called it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And so society means a place where you can associate. And just like he gives the example, you know, there's so many wonderful lectures, by the way, that you can get of Srila Prabhupada, you know, recorded back in the 60s and 70s. And he compares it to, you know, any association. If there's like a stockbrokers, so they get together to share ideas, you know, and get enthused to do what they want to do, right? There's the tennis club, and there's all this, everything. So your association is really key. And that's why it is said, there's a portion of the Bhagavatam in the 3rd canto. Canto means a series of chapters. And this is the teachings of a great acharya who's really an incarnation of God called Kapila Dev in the 3rd canto. I don't know if you're familiar with Bhagavatam. Mm-hmm. But he begins he's teaching his mother, wonderful mother, Devahuti, who's already pure, but she takes the role of a conditioned soul to ask questions. And he begins talking about association. And it turns out there are 8 verses describing the benefits, you know, the necessity of giving up bad association and getting good association. And so I called it, I hope it's not offensive, the Sadhu Sangashtaka. 8 verses about Sadhu Sangha. This is the famous satsang that I think all of our Indian friends know about, satsang, right? Satsang means association with the sat, with those who are spiritually minded, so that you can also be brought into that. So in the course of explaining that, he says, Prasangam majanam pashamatmana kavayo vidu, saeshu sadashu kato moksha dwaram apavatam. He says there, I put this one in a poem too, mundane affection keeps us tied to birth and death infernal, but love for sadhus opens wide the doors to life eternal. And so this is the essential thing. Whom do we choose to associate with? And Srila Prabhupada started this movement, called it association, to give people who are spiritually minded a chance to associate with a pure devotee himself, personally and eventually through his books and other media. Because that association purifies and draws the mind away from involvement in material things. So it's a hurdle, or it's a challenge for anyone who wants to begin this process to really choose their association. We know that it's painful, and he says that in these verses. He says, my bhakti, let me see. Tatikshava karunika suridak sarvadehi nama jata shakshanta sarabhak sarabhushana. Mayananyena bhavane bhaktim kurvanti yedadam. He's defining what a sadhu really is. A sadhu is a great devotee. Mayananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yedadam. Matkate chakta karmanas chakta swajana bandhava. And this is to your exact question. And he's saying that one has to search out the sadhus. What are the qualities he gives preliminary? Very tolerant. You know, where do you find that? Tatikshava, very compassionate. Suridaksa feels to be the friend of every living entity. That means he has the vision of seeing the soul as part and parcel of Krishna and not discriminating in accordance to the body. You see? Ajata Shatavak, therefore feels no enmity toward anybody. I don't have any enemies. You know, to really feel that way is not easy. Sadhavak sadhabhushana. These are some of the ornaments of the sadhu. And how do you get that way? Mayananyena bhavana. By practicing unalloyed devotion to me. Kapila Dev is speaking, Lord Krishna. And what are some of the qualities he does? Matkate chakta karmanas. If some activity is disruptive of that relationship, you give it up. And then the clincher is, even if the relationships with his friends and families is impediment, give those up. So we have to choose, because association is so important. Just like a mother knows, wants to know who, a kid grows to be 8, 10, 12 years old. Who are you associating with, right? Just like sometimes you do homeschooling, make sure you can control the association. Isn't it? Because it's so crazy. And then you have the internet. You may be sitting at home peacefully, but who are they associating it through the screen? So this is the great challenge. And if you're able to get a taste for the association with great souls like Srila Prabhupada and devotees, this is the greatest boon. Because by that association, you'll be attracted to the process of devotional service. Hey, come on, buddy, let's go down to the Harekrishna temple. All right, I'll try it. That starts your auspicious life. So it is a choice that has to be made, and it can be very painful. But you can know that your best friends in the world are going to be the devotees, because they're going to give you instruction or attachments that will take you out of this material world.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, we have a few more minutes. If there's any other questions or comments. Oh, thank you.
I had a question. So in order to excel in something, a person should enjoy like doing it. How does a person enjoy while doing a bhakti yoga? Or
how do you enjoy by doing bhakti yoga?
I mean to say how he enjoys, so that the process is fulfilled with enjoyment.
Yes.
So
what Prabhupada said is actually a process of recreation only. What is that? So someone asks, well, what is the recreation? Dancing. Your dancing is not recreation. So then the fellow said, well, it's very difficult. If not, dancing is difficult? Why? It's difficult because we're we're a little bit inhibited. But that's why I do the circle. You see? Because everybody can get into the circle. You just have to do it. The thing is that you're absolutely right. At first, there is a certain amount of austerity. Just like in order to practice seriously, you have to give up certain things, and you have to take it. Anything you want to do. Suppose you want to train to be a really expert car mechanic, right? Well, you can't just read the books at home. You can't just like open your hood on your car and just experiment, right? That could be disastrous. Get some manual, get some book who's written by somebody who knows Shastra, car manual Shastra. But at the same time, you have to practice. So you try to maybe hang out at your local friendly car repair shop and see if you can, learn from somebody who knows. So in order to do that, then you have to do it a certain way, not another way, right? Hold the wrench this way, don't touch that, and whatever. So similarly, Krishna consciousness means certain do's and don'ts. Anukulyena anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. This is a process of surrender. You go to college, you got to surrender. This is where you got to surrender a lot of money now, But you have to also say, okay, I'm going to go to class at the right time, I got to study and do all the things, right? So similarly, we have these 4 regulative principles. Oh my God, he's mentioning the 4 regulative principles. Yeah. Because the idea is that the senses are controlling us now. We have to bring them under control, So you can't be, there's no intoxication allowed. You have to follow the rules as given by the acharyas, by the leaders. It's just the way it is. And, okay, no gambling. No meat eating. That becomes very feasible when you encounter prasadam, It's very tasty. Before long, you can completely give up meat, which is killing the planet, by the way, isn't it? All of this, they're tearing down the Amazon forest to build, everyone knows, to slaughterhouses or big land where they can feed these cattle. It's horrible. If everyone would become a vegetarian or a Krishnatarian, okay. Yes, we use milk products, but that's the minimal compared. And then the planet would be saved. So that's one of the easiest things, but it's really important, especially, it's precise. It's not just vegetarian food, it's offered to Krishna with love. And okay, there has to be restrictions in sex life, but there's marriage, but it has to be controlled, because that's the main binding force here. If you can sublimate that, into Krishna bhakti, then you're a long way toward achieving the goal of life. And it's possible. Even in marriage, there are restrictions. That letting the senses go is what's keeping us bound here. It's the source of all misery. Yehi sangsparjaja bhoga dukkha yona evate. Right from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, yes, that enjoyment you're getting, whether from the drugs or the sex or whatever you want to call it, that's the source of your misery. So, it has a beginning and an end, and the wise don't take their pleasure there. Okay, where do they take their pleasure? As you say, well, how can we enjoy? Bhaya sparsheshu asaktatma, this is in Bhagavad Gita, the previous verse, 5th chapter. Bhaya sparsheshu asaktatma, not attracted to simply the senses and the sense object. Avindadyatmana yatsukam, enjoying the happiness within. As I mentioned, previous lectures, that we have an ocean, we have a reservoir of pleasure. We had this pamphlet, we distributed 1 million of them, still going out. Within our heart, Krishna's there. And wherever Krishna is there, he's there with all of his retinue and the cows and everything. It's all in our heart, the consciousness, but we don't know about it. So we're going outside. So that pleasure, as soon as you chant Hare Krishna, with some concentration and some, a little purity and devotion, then you can feel that spiritual energy, as Prabhupada says, coming down from the transcendental plane. Golokera premadana harinama sankirtana. Golokera premadana, the treasure of prema, love of Godhead, is there in Goloka, and it's come down with Lord Chaitanya and his associates, and it's present. We just have to learn how to take it. It's not that complicated. Clap your hands, chant Hare Krishna, and learn about Krishna. But the don'ts, sometimes the don'ts are harder than the do's. I'll chant Hare Krishna, but I'm also going to do this, and that. Well, then you slow up your progress. It serves as anchors. There's another analogy. I don't have time to tell what Prabhupada said. The wedding party. You ever see the wedding party? The wedding party gets into the boat. They're going off to the honeymoon. And so they hire this guy. So it's evening time, so they get in the boat and he starts rowing and they take to sleep. And then they wake up, but they haven't gone anywhere. What happened? Oh, I forgot to pull up the anchor. Sorry. So all of these attachments we have for matter in all of its forms are the anchors that are keeping the soul from progressing. So we have to bite the bullet, as they say, and take that cold shower in the morning, even if it's cold. And then you get detached, because Krishna's all attractive. He actually takes your mind and heart away from it. And then there's such a wonderful treasure now, and I'll end here because it's almost 7. 1 minute. I'll give you an example of some of these wonderful vibrations. The whole thing is in the sound, beginning with the holy name. So just one little drop from Rupa Goswami's Ocean of Nectar writings. He says, Uradi ktamudari ratabangam, navajadadadakidano rasadangam, yuvadi vadayadamadanatatangam, panamatayamanatatadangam. His flute emanates entrancing sounds for the cowherd girls whose love abounds, for the clever cloud-complexioned lord who's dancing upon the Kalindi shore. I put it into one of my little jingles. But it's source of tremendous pleasure there. Take your mind completely away from all of this incredible insanity, trying to get you don't need any of that. So beginning with Hare Krishna and expanding into all the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, is giving us a chance to become totally absorbed in Krishna consciousness, break out of this birth and death, and go back to God for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.